Welcome back, everybody, to this episode of the Open Concept Podcast, where we are breaking down unnecessary walls and barriers that stand in the way of greatness. Kindra Morse, thank you so much for being here today. Just down in Washington, Spokane, Washington. I'm in Vancouver, BC, not Vancouver, Washington, as we were talking about offline. Awesome to have you here. Can't wait to get into our conversation. I was looking at one of your Instagram videos and we are talking about this offline, and I'm hoping you can share a little bit more about that. You had said that you felt that God did not provide you or anybody with a vision that couldn't be fulfilled, or that he didn't believe that you could fulfill. You have some great content out there. I was hoping that we could start by you maybe expanding on that a little bit and walking us through the journey of who Kindra was in previous life to where we got to now.
We have. So how many previous lives do you want me to go through?
Yeah, that great question. I think let's go back to, we were talking, you used to be in real estate.
Yeah. So I would say my first entrepreneurial experience was in real estate. And I started out, my very first job actually was a waitress, which I believe every single person should have a job as a waiter or waitress at some point in their lives for two reasons.
Hardly agree.
One, you need to be on the other side of the table so you understand how stressful it is and how you have the waiter has no control over most of what's happening. Also, what it taught me, the most valuable skill that taught me was that the better service I provided, the better the tip that I would get. And I started that job at 16, but I learned that if I provide, the better that I connected with people, I learned how to create connection very quickly. I learned how to build rapport very quickly. And I learned that if I did a good job, I earned more money. And that changed the way I looked at jobs. After that, it was like, I'm never going to go get a job where I only get paid $1 amount per hour and there's no opportunity to make extra. Then I got introduced to real estate in 2005 and was a realtor through 2007, 2008, which was fun.
Oh yeah, that was a treacherous time. I was working construction at that point, and I remember it was 2008, and we were building a big tower, and our manager at the time, he came back and said, hey, actually, we're not moving forward. There's no more money coming in. We're shutting the project down, and that's it. And then a lot of people ended up getting laid off. I stayed on. I was very fortunate, but yeah, I remember it was weird times in real estate for sure.
Yeah, in 2007, I was working with a builder. He did predominantly spec homes, but he would sell them really close to the end of construction. So they would be custom right at the end for some of the final stuff. And I remember him telling me, this is going to burst. This is coming to an end. This is not going to last. And I'd only been a realtor for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. I was 21 maybe, and thinking there's no way this is not going to last. This is always going to be amazing. And it's interesting, the longer that you're an entrepreneur, the more that you realize nothing is ever guaranteed. And you need to always be considering your business the blockbuster and the next business is Netflix. It's always changing. To ever think that you'll ever find a business that you know will always be the same and grow is ridiculous. But anyways, it hit like a brick wall to all of us. We were shocked. And that actually led me to, my income had dropped so much. I'd had my first son in 2007. I was home a lot, but then I got introduced to network marketing. It was the end of 2008. And I was really looking at how else can I make money right now besides with a child. And I learned a lot about the industry. I had some success, not life-changing success, but some success. And then I ended up going through some life and ended up going through a hard divorce. And I transitioned to lending. So I was actually a lender for the next almost 5 years. And I was partnered with an extremely high producing loan officer, borderline insane, I would say. Um, I learned so much working with him, so much. He, especially since you're in construction and you understand what it takes to get a construction loan through,
Mhm.
he taught me so much in tenacity that we would have files come back from underwriters denied, and he almost always found a way to rework it. And he was a pusher, he was a driver. When you hear about drivers in business and in life, he embodied it, and I learned what that looks like working for him, because there'd be times where I was a loan officer, he was a loan officer, but he was also a full-time firefighter. Like I said, he was amazing, but borderline crazy because he worked all the time. Anyways, so every fourth day he needed somebody that would run his files for him, but he didn't need an assistant. He needed sort of an assistant, so we were partners. Anyways, he would come back from his day off and he would ask, "Did you find out on this file XYZ?" I would say, "Oh yeah, I emailed them." He's like, "Call him. Call him."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "I emailed them. Like, isn't that enough?" "No, that's not enough. Call him." And I just learned what it meant to make stuff happen in business, to make things happen in life.
It's wild. I'll pause you there for a second because I think it's important, and I love what you said. But it's amazing when you think that you have a work ethic or you're dialed in or you're focused on something and you're pretty happy with the results that you're producing. But then you see somebody on a different level that you hear about, maybe that somebody else has told a story, but to live that, be next to a person like that, to see it happen in real time. What does your day look like? How do you follow up? What are the types of calls that you're making? How do you get this through all the time? Like it radiates through that environment. And there's so much that can be learned through a mentor like that or a coach that is able to, really show you what is possible and pull you out of what you think is a position that you're doing well in to really show you what excellence looks like. And I get, I get asked that a lot. Like, I think that I'm doing a great job at what I'm doing, but I always know that there's somebody else out there that's doing more, that's refining their craft a bit more, that's doing a better job at leading their team, that's building bigger houses, more beautiful homes, that is, they're more profitable. Like, there's always somebody at another level, but you don't know necessarily what that looks like until you get either into the room with somebody, or you get to sit down next to them, or you get to really work with them for a long period of time to absorb some of that energy.
Yeah, we were doing 4 to 5 million a month in loans, and it was so much larger than what I had ever seen possible before that. And I think when you see what's possible, that's what allows you to see almost double what you've achieved. Anytime you've achieved anything, it's that level, that new what used to be a ceiling becomes the floor, and it's a ladder. You have to keep expanding what's possible.
I've talked a lot about benchmarks on this podcast. Actually, I don't even know if I've talked a lot about benchmarks on this podcast, certainly in other people's podcasts, but the idea of what you said, making the old ceiling your new floor, setting those benchmarks, whether it's going to be like, generally people have benchmarks for whether it's, general happiness, health, finance, real estate acquisition, whatever it is. There's generally this benchmark, and it doesn't fluctuate all that much. You'll have peaks where things are going really, really well. You're going on that diet, you're cutting weight, whatever that is, but then you get to a certain point and that gets kind of scary. And then you turn that thermostat down, and then you kind of find yourself in this benchmark. So your average never really changes, but the amount of effort that it takes to set a new benchmark, so that is now your new normal, that takes a huge amount of violence, attention, effort to really change that benchmark and know that this is where you now sit for good, and everything else in the future is based off of this number, off of this point versus this. And you know that you have the confidence that this is now where you start building from today.
And I would argue that the longer that you were at a plateau, the harder, the more violence, as you say, the more tenacity, the more relentless you have to be to break through that ceiling.
Is that because you find yourself at a position where now you've just acquired a lifestyle that sort of surrounds this benchmark that you have, and now there's just too many variables that will end up changing that are kind of scary if you change as a person? Or what do you mean by that?
What I more mean is that if you've been comfortable for an extended period of time
Mhm.
without stretching yourself, without pushing those upper limits, the longer that you've stayed comfortable, the more stories you've created in your mind that this is the best I can do.
It's a great point.
I've lived it.
Wholeheartedly. Yeah. I get it. Well, you not only the stories that you create, but the
Hmm.
reality that is built around you,
Hmm.
whether it's, you build this routine that's got comfortable, people adapt, right? Human beings, they adapt to their environment quite easily. We're very resilient, but we do adapt to the surroundings that are, amongst us. And if we get used to the way that things are, if we get used to this routine, if we get used to this weight level that we're at. I use gym analogies a lot because I think they relate a lot to business and to life. But you get used to this weight and you get comfortable. You know how, you're flexible. You know that if you go up a little bit, you can always, kind of come down. You look good. You buy the clothes now that fit you. And if you're going to go and change, you're going to drop weight or put on size, and you're going to have to go and fit out your whole new wardrobe. Like there's all of these things again that surround your life that if you go and mess that benchmark up, change that benchmark, physically things are going to have to change. But also there's that time that you mentioned that you've told yourself, I'm not good enough to get to this benchmark. It's taken too long. So now I'm way too far behind. I couldn't possibly get started. What's the point? Why am I doing that? Why me? Clearly I wasn't cut out for it the first time, the second time, the third time. So what makes me what means that I'm going to be successful the fourth time, that time that I really push myself to reset that benchmark, because those stories have been wired into your head. I appreciate the insight on that.
Yeah. It's that's where you have to be visualizing where you want to go and have a crystal clear path, not path, but outcome that you're working towards. And if you don't identify where you're going, you'll never know if you even got there or didn't get there. So for me, going from I created in my mortgage business, I'd had my second son, had had so much success. Actually, that loan officer really wanted me to buy his book of business so that he could retire and focus on real estate because he was also flipping houses. So he's a full-time firefighter, full-time mortgage loan officer, and he was flipping houses. He was insane. Um, and he actually had a sign. He told me this. This is crazy off the subject. He had a sign in his room at home that said, "Work is more important than family." And I remember thinking, I don't want to live my life that way. That's insane. So just kind of funny. But anyways, um, I had my second son. I was home with him and I wanted to be home with my kids. I did not want to go back to the bank. I really didn't like that was the year. I don't know if you know this, but that was the year that they started adding NMLS numbers to loan applications,
No.
meaning it was 2014. So, meaning I was a loan officer. I wrote up the application. I sent it to the underwriter. An underwriter approves the loan, but they were putting the loan officer's NMLS ID number, which that's how you're logged in the system.
Yeah,
So, if
I know.
that loan fails, it comes back to the loan officer, not the underwriter. And not, I don't have any idea what ramifications would come from that, but it was a new thing in the industry. And I'm thinking, I'm not even the one that approves these loans. How am I the one that's responsible if people stop paying on them? It was a weird time. Anyways, I had a friend introduce me to a product and I loved it and I ran with it. And I had seen, because I had had the experience that I'd had years prior, I knew I could make enough to stay home with my kids. I thought if I can make enough to buy gas and groceries and be home with my kids, that's all I need. And it was so much more than that. We hit the top rank of the company in 5 months. I changed our family's lives tremendously in that season and built a network that has sold over 100 million in products online, helped lots and hundreds of women build substantial incomes from home using content and marketing these products online. I also got very comfortable because I had created much more success than I ever needed to live off of for a very extended period of time. And then when all that time goes by and things change, you start to tell yourself stories. You tell yourself all kinds of stories about how did that happen? How did you create that success? How did that all come about? And you can get stuck in telling yourself lies.
What kind of stories were you telling yourself?
Uh, that things like maybe I got lucky. Maybe I don't know how to build a business. What's super interesting. So when I posted that about what I said, God doesn't give you a vision that you're not capable of fulfilling. What I meant is that we're given these little glimmers of something that we're supposed to do. But I fought it. I fought it for years, actually, a couple years of seeing myself stepping into a new arena, but telling myself these lies. Did I build that? Or am I capable? Or maybe I'm not. Did I just get lucky? Or actually, no, I'm really talented. I know a lot about content. I know a lot about online marketing. I know a lot about leadership. No, actually, maybe I just got lucky. Maybe that just happened. I went back and forth with a lot of thoughts around which story is true. And at the end of the day, the truth is you get to decide which story is true. That's the most exciting news, that we are the ones that get to decide. Anyways, so I thought it's so interesting. I don't know how much you know about network marketing.
That's why I'm here to learn as much as I possibly can. Yeah.
It's an interesting industry and business model. And there was a season where it's amazing. I think, again, it's like waitressing. Everybody should have some experience, could benefit from some experience in the industry. It's where I've seen the most personal development outside of us being an elite. It's incredible for developing leadership skills. You learn without the expense of building a business. You can learn how to build a business essentially without any risk, because you don't do inventory, you're not creating a product, you're not managing returns, you don't handle money. But you're told that you're an entrepreneur, and I believed this story that I was an entrepreneur. And about a year and a half ago, I had someone that had also reached the top of her company and transitioned tell me that she realized she didn't own any aspect of her business. And I fought it. I was like, that's not true. We're business owners. We own our businesses. And it was almost like I had to go through this grief process of grieving this belief that I had a business and realizing I was a extremely highly paid sales rep that led a massive team.
I've had those conversations as well. I mean, I have a number of friends over the years have sold everything from Tupperware to beauty products to supplements and all sorts of stuff. And that was, they were I don't want to say pushing these products, but that's what they were selling. And they were doing a great job, had an awesome impact for them and their family, gave them some flexibility in their life to sell things, to make money, like you said, without holding any inventory, maybe a little bit, but it wasn't enough that it was going to break the bank. But they've never had the sweats at night and fear that they're not going to make payroll, or have a client breathing down their neck with a potential lawsuit that's pending, and haven't had to really go through the pain of that, which I think is admirable. Like, not everybody needs that, not everybody can handle that, not everybody wants that. But I think those opportunities have provided those women and those men that are selling these products, it provides them with a really incredible skill set, a solid foundation that can prep them for if they decide that they want to do something different, step into growing a business, step into bringing on staff, bringing on employees, learning, finance. At least they have the foundation. What I think is one of the most important foundations of any business is sales. They have that foundation because that is the oxygen and the lifeblood. If you don't have any sales, you don't have any business. And then everything else, hiring the people, hiring the staff, the leadership teams, the operational procedures that you put in place, the finance team behind all of it all, like, none of that matters if a sale doesn't happen.
Right.
And if you have these fundamentals that you can learn without that risk, I would argue to say that is the best way to get into entrepreneurship. One of the
Exactly.
best ways.
I told my son he was looking at different job opportunities. He's a senior in high school and he's already had several jobs. One was learning sales. I said, the most valuable skill you could ever learn is sales. This was a painting job where you didn't have to have sales experience, but they would learn sales experience. But I told him it doesn't matter what you want to do. You have not even just for the lifeblood of the business, but you have to enroll yourself into the vision of the business. You have to enroll maybe a banker into the vision of your business, which is sales. Sales is enrollment. It's just an enrollment game. And so again, yeah, network marketing is a way for people to learn sales, to learn to handle rejection with no risk of building a business. There's really no downside. Most of these companies are next to nothing, if not nothing, to join and start. And you can develop incredible skills. You just don't actually own a business. It was just kind of a little had to like have a burial for that belief that I'd had for almost a decade.
Real quick before we get back to the show, if you have heard anything on this podcast that has resonated with you, or if it's helped you in any way, appreciate more than anything in the world if you could go hit that subscribe button or leave us a review. It helps us tremendously. I want to go back to being able to continue to serve and do more and more and help out and get bigger and bigger guests on, better and better. The only way that I can do that is with your help. I'm so honored to be here. Let's get back to the show. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful day. Casting a vision is and selling people on the vision. If anytime that I'm recruiting somebody into our organization, it's not only a piece of why do you want to come work for us, but this is why we want you to come and work for us. This is our vision. This is where we're going. This is where we need this position filled. This is why. But being able, and that person, they can go and work at any company. In most cases, they can go and find a job doing something, but to sell them on your vision, on your beliefs, on the values, on your mission of where you want to go, I mean, that's sales at the highest level. And you're arguably taking a huge risk because you're not just selling a product, you're selling responsibility, you're selling time, you're selling insight to the company, into the everyday operations, and you're having trust in that person. So you really do need to sell them on that vision if you're looking at bringing somebody really great into the company. Because if you don't have a vision big enough that can fit their vision inside of it, they're going to go and find somebody else to work for that can make all of their dreams come true, that does have a path for them to grow into the person that they want to become, and can have stepping stones so that they can develop themselves personally and in their career. Because people have hopes and dreams, and they have goals of their own that they want to hit, and they need to make sure that they are on a path, and they're assessing you whether or not, or they're assessing the product that they're selling or the company that they're working for, and so whether or not this is a good opportunity for them, if it's moving them in the right direction of their career or their life in general.
I was consulting a woman who is a hairdresser building a business, and she had multiple times now has had people that she's brought in, talent, that has, after a few months, learned the system that she's using to get leads, gone on and started their own business outside of her business. And I explained to her that you need to hold a space for their bigger picture vision and create a world where they want to stay in it. Because yes, it's a business that any hairdresser can go out and launch their own business. So how can you become a leader for that woman or team of women that they want to stay, because of everything you offer as a leader, they want to stay in your world as long as possible. And you have to know, when you bring on great talent, it doesn't matter what business it is, if you have great talent, they are going to be able to see, I could go do the same thing. I can go create my own business. And if you don't create that world where they feel that they'd rather stay in it, they're going to leave it.
You're so correct. And that's the risk in any business. And if I had the conversation, interesting story, I had a conversation around here with our team, and I was doing an introduction to AI. This is going back about I don't know, 9-10 months ago, something like that, about how we were going to adopt AI into the company. And I had made the comment that whether or not you are here with our company, or you are going to work for another company down the road, or you start your own business, these are the fundamental things about AI specifically that you need to learn. But it was that understanding that I am going to teach you this, not out of fear. And that's what so many business owners have, is this fear. If I teach you my secret sauce, if I teach you everything that I know and show you all the behind the scenes, activity behind the business, then you're going to take that and go and start your own company. And that's a fear that a lot of people have. But I have the fear that if they don't learn this as quickly as possible, sure, they may go and work with somebody else, but if they don't learn this stuff as quickly as possible, then we as a business are going to fall further and further behind. And there is not going to be any opportunity for them to continue to grow within the vision that we've casted for them. And, I'd also made the comment that it's up to everybody on the team to show up and work and show up to the field, because if they are not putting in the effort every day, then somebody else will. It is not the responsibility of the employer to keep you employed. It is the responsibility for the employees to show up every day, to work, to put in the time, the effort, and fight for the time on the field. And if they can't do that, then the rest of the team is going to suffer. And we'll have to replace you with somebody that does want that role, that does appreciate the vision and is aligned with the values of the rest of the people on the team.
And I love the idea of what's in it for them if they stay and build your vision. What is in it for them? How can you make it a win-win for your vision and your business and your brand? And also, how can they see a better future staying in your world than not?
And that's a huge part of painting that vision, right? When you talk about a vision for the company, and this is what so many leaders do, is or business owners, or even just family members painting this vision for the family without, the husband or the wife have said, this is what I want the family to look like, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing, without asking the question of, do you align with that? What are your visions? What is it that you want? Yeah, okay, that's awesome. We can make that happen. And so many people overlook the idea. They get caught up in, this is the vision of the company. This is all that we're doing. Like hell or high water, this is where we're going. And when you introduce that to people, the people on the team or the people in your family or, insert X wherever you want, if they're not necessarily aligned with that, then they're not going to wake up every day and get excited about it, because they don't see that opportunity for them, because they don't see their life being able to be created in a better light by following this vision. So it is that balancing act of understanding every person that is on your team, every person that is coming and selling for you, every person that you're onboarding. You need to make sure you understand what it is that they want, where it is that they want to go, and what they want to do. Otherwise, that plan that you build for them isn't going to mean anything, because they're going to say, you're building this plan for me, but you want me to go over here. I want to go over here. And the sooner you can get on board with that, and the sooner you can understand what they want, what drives them, what their desires are, what their hopes are for their future, you can understand quite quickly where they're going to fit in the organizational structure, where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are going to be, what they need to work on. And we did a values indicator with every single one of our team members, and it highlighted huge amount of information, right? So what are your top values? Some were wealth, like number one, wealth, money, and they're going to be driven. Others was praise, empathy, team, family. Like there's a whole list of stuff. And we went over together on everything as a team. And you understand pretty quickly, if somebody really values praise for the effort that they've been putting in, and they haven't been getting praise for the work and the effort that they've been contributing, then they're not going to feel great. They're going to feel like they're in a work environment that doesn't respect them and doesn't value them. And some people need that. Some people are driven by challenge, right? If they're in a position where work is really easy for them and they wake up every day and are doing the exact same thing, they're going to get bored, because they value challenge. They value getting tasks completed. So they need to have that kind of challenge. So you're going to find for them these challenges, these new things that they can sink their teeth into, these bigger tasks, these bigger implementation items that they're going to take and run with. And you know that they're going to appreciate that. We had one of our staff members here, and he's a site super position, and found that he was showing up, and he didn't have a great attitude. We'll put it at that. And we had to look at, like, why is this? It's like, well, actually, we've been making things too easy on him, and feels like he didn't have responsibility. Go back to that values indicator. Responsibility was a big value for him. He's got 3 kids. And so when we started handing over more responsibility and more ownership of certain projects and areas of the business, and he had full autonomy to run with these specific areas, all of a sudden that attitude changed exponentially, because he had something that he could fight for, something that he could work on. And that is the type of thing that would really lit him up. And he wanted some of that autonomy, and he didn't want anybody to interfere or, strip stuff away from him. He's like, no, I want full ownership of this, because I take pride in seeing this done from the beginning to the end. So I had to give him that, I had to make way in that vision. So what I'm getting at is, like, you can't just specifically paint your vision. You do need to understand the vision that people have for themselves, and make sure that that person is going to align with your vision as well.
I could not help but listen to all of that and think how it applies exactly the same to raising kids and understanding that you have a vision, but we need to be asking our kids, what is your vision? What drives you? What motivates you? How do you, and all of my children, my oldest, like I said, is a senior in high school. I have an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they're all entirely different humans. They have very different wiring systems. They have very different goals, very different ways that they're feeling motivated and seen and heard and all that. And it's so interesting as a parent to see that it's in business and in life, that we have to give everyone around us autonomy to be the authors and creators of their own lives. Obviously, my kids have rules and standards, but I'm really big on asking them questions and empowering them to make their own decisions and teaching them to believe in their self in making decisions for themselves. Anyways, you should, listeners, rewind it and listen to everything you just said, and it applies exactly the same to parenting.
Appreciate that. I've 2 daughters, and one's 4 and one's brand new. At the time we're recording right now, she's 5 months old. But my 4-year-old daughter, I was getting some parenting advice, and it was like, don't ask them if they want a cup of milk. Ask them if they want their milk in a red cup or a blue cup. And I was like, okay, that's pretty good advice. I got this parenting thing down, no problem. I was like, do you want your milk in a red cup or blue cup? And she's like, no. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to throw that advice out the window. I have no idea what to do now. So what's step 2? What's step 3? But it is funny. But what at different ages, for sure. I mean, at that age, her brain is really just developing, but she's catching on to so much so quickly. And she knows that if somebody's in a bad mood, then she can feel that. And they really do pick up on everything. And I'm not a huge fan, like my experience in high school specifically, and with the public school system, was not great. Like, I didn't do well in high school. And I considered homeschooling my daughters. If we had the time, I would love to do that. But I also think that you are homeschooling your kids from the hours of 3 p.m. till 8 p.m., after they come home from school. On the weekends, you're homeschooling them. Everything that they are learning when they're at home and in that environment, they're picking up on. All your traits, your nuances, the energy that you bring into the house, they pick up on all of that, everything that you do. So you are teaching your kids at home, whether you think you are or not. You're absolutely teaching them.
Absolutely. I have a funny, probably most people would think I have a funny way of parenting in some things. There's a lot of things that my kids don't get to decide. But my daughter, my youngest, is sensitive like her mother. And this is totally off topic, but she is one that's a lot more apt to say, I don't feel good. I think I need to stay home, when she doesn't need to stay home. And so I tend to give them choices where I make the right choice seem more appealing, and the wrong So for recently, I said, that's fine if you feel like you don't want to go to school, then that means you're going to stay home and you're going to have to relax in your room and we're not going to watch any TV. You can't have your iPad. I think I'll just go to school. And she was happy and chipper the whole way to school. And I told my husband, I'm like, I guarantee you, if I had said, no, you need to go to school, mom's mean, mom doesn't care about me, mom doesn't believe me. But I empowered her to make the right choice by making the other option worse than going to school, essentially. And I don't know, that's just my take on parenting.
I mean, I think that's a great way, and I think it's translate again to leadership and to sales and bringing people on as well, right? Is there's an option for not making those extra calls that day.
Mhm.
There's an option for showing up and doing the bare minimum. There's an option like there's are some people for sure that are going to show up and do the bare minimum that's required to just stay employed and like just sneak under the radar, that are going to use up all of their sick days and all of their vacation days and the first ones to book off the long weekends and so on and so forth. They're going to say no to overtime when other guys are going to be working, just because they're not technically doing anything wrong, but they're not quite doing anything more that's going to move them ahead. And people will tend to do that as well, but you really do want to try and make the upside of making that decision beneficial for them, and there's almost always a way to do that, to get that win-win like you were talking about before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
So,
most of your the people that you've been working with through network marketing, when you first started getting into network marketing, were you all in? Is this something that you knew that you were going to be able to do? Was it a refined craft that you had to figure out along the way, or what was some of the biggest things or beliefs that you had going into this new role that either you had or that you had figured out quite quickly were wrong?
well, about 2 years ago is when I really started feeling this pull to build my own business. And it wasn't at that time, I didn't even realize that I didn't have a business already because for as long as I can remember, I've referred to myself as an entrepreneur. But I didn't know what that was. I didn't know how to build it. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to build. What had happened was in the industry of network marketing, there's a lot of turnover, just like anything, but it broke my heart. There are women that I worked very closely with that, for one reason or another, it was no longer a fit for them and they've moved on to other things. And I had this pull for so long that just because you don't want to build this anymore doesn't mean I don't want to still work with you in some way. But I didn't know how to do that or how to go about doing that. And I also saw women over the years that for one reason or another, would step away and go back to, I don't want to say just being a stay-at-home mom, because I think a stay-at-home mom is beautiful and there's no wrong. There's no right and wrong way to do life. But for women that are driven, if you're a woman that loves to provide for your family, that loves to have some autonomy, that loves to feel like you're doing something meaningful outside of being a mom, because being a parent is a temporary assignment. That is not the rest of your life. There's always going to come a time where you're no longer, that's not your identity, not your full identity. And I I just wanted to, I didn't love the idea of in network marketing, it's go find new people, go find new people, go find new people. And I felt like I don't want to just go find new people. I want to see these people that I've built these incredible relationships with build their next whatever it is. Maybe they want to have a little, I don't know, clothing boutique, or they want to launch a podcast, or they want whatever. I want to support them following what they believe is their purpose. And I didn't know how to go about that. And then the more that I started looking into this whole offer creation idea, the more that I realized in network marketing, like you said, we learn sales, you learn marketing, you learn a lot of customer service to some degree, because you do have to build a team and there's customer service involved in employees and also on the customer side, actual customers. And there's a lot of things that you learn, but you never learn offer creation. You're literally selling somebody else's thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the more that I learned about it, the more that I felt called to help other people learn offer creation. Because and I so this is about a year and a half, almost a year and a half ago. After I'd heard that woman say, she told me that I didn't own my business. There was a woman who I really admire and respect. She has created a ton of success, been on stages just like me, led massive teams, created incredible results. And she was in tears because the business was struggling. And she said, I'm losing one leader away from having to go get a job. And I felt like, why are these women? This is a group of women that is high level leaders that have achieved incredible levels of success. Why is there this belief that if this isn't going to work anymore, I have to go get a job? When the world is our oyster. There are so many things out there that we can do. Why are so many women in this position struggling to see themselves as actual business owners? And so I initially thought that I would help high level network marketers develop their own offers. And it's been interesting because most of the women that I thought would want to create their own businesses so that they did have more control over their business and their future and what all the different choices that you can make when you're the owner of the business that you don't get to make when you're not the owner of the business. Most of them are still either all in into the network marketing, or they've already transitioned off to something else. So I've been helping other people, some that have had network marketing backgrounds, several actually, but my business now has really focused on helping people build their personal brand with content and also build an offer around their lived experiences, what they know, what things they've been through, what's their story, what life experiences have you accumulated that you can help others in a meaningful, purposeful way. So that's where it's at today. I still am technically with my network marketing company. That is not my focus though.
Interesting that you made the comment about the woman that had said I might fall back and go to a job, because that, to me, that does not even cross my mind. For me, I'm like, if this
You know
business,
why?
I, why is that?
Because this is what I now really fully understand in network marketing. And this woman's made millions. This is not somebody that has not had success. But because you don't understand offer creation, you've never learned how to go find problems worth solving in the marketplace. You've never learned how to go validate an idea. You've never learned how to do research around the problems that people are actually dealing with and learn to look for the gaps in the marketplace. And that when you don't know, see, I had a CEO and I don't mean to say bad things because he was an incredible mentor and taught me a lot, and eternally grateful for everything that I learned and everything that I was blessed with working with him. But one of the things that he would tell me is that you could be dropped into the jungle and you could create success anywhere you ever went. Well, that felt good to my ego, but it wasn't true because I didn't actually know how to be dropped into a city and go find problems worth solving. I had to learn how to do that outside of the network marketing model. That's just not something you learn at all. It's not even talked about. It's not even, I think the reason is that in that model, you can build a massive business, a massive organization, create a lot of income, but you really never learned how to do it without somebody else providing you with the blueprint and the model. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And I think that there's so many great people that can be a number two, a number three, a number four in an organization. And they're going to do really, really well. Like the number two at Google, number 17 at Google makes millions of dollars a year, right? Can be wildly successful at what they do, but they're at arm's length away from a lot of the other stuff that they're probably not great at. And not everybody is cut out for a CEO position, for a business owner position, and they're better off in running a division of the company under strong leadership. I was interviewing a friend and I had asked him, I had said, can anybody be an entrepreneur? And I wholeheartedly agreed with him when he said, everybody can be an entrepreneur, but not everybody should. And because you're right, like you may have people, I find they have a zone of genius,
Right.
And that zone of genius, you can either decide, do I want to dilute that and focus in other areas? Or should I continue focusing on my zone of genius and double down and triple down on my strengths and continue to offer value where I can? And that zone of genius, it may be in sales, it may be in production, it may be in customer service, but it may not be at the top of painting that vision for the 50 person, 60 person, 100 person organization, because that's a different skill set. And whether or not you decide that that's the direction that you want to go is really up to you. And that's not a decision that everybody has an option to make. And it's not a question that everybody is going to get asked. They can certainly make those decisions for themselves if they want to chase after that an opportunity like that. But not everybody should.
And I have a different perspective because of my experience. And yes, I totally agree. Not everybody is wired to be an entrepreneur, but the women that have created the level of success that I'm talking about, I want to be careful because I'm really struggling with, I don't want to dishonor the industry at all. I have no desire to dishonor what's blessed me. I am not a fool to think that the industry has not, we have our dream home, we bought a farm on 50 acres. It's it's blessed us tremendously. There are aspects of it though that now looking back I see differently. And these women are women that my belief is that these are women that are capable and dream of it. I've talked to enough to know that they do dream of doing something different. But there's the way that your skills to develop, to grow a team like that, the way that you're shaped and mentored to do that, there's a certain amount of mental, I want to say almost manipulation. And it's hard to say that out loud. Again, I don't want to dishonor the industry, but there's a certain amount of, you're fed a lot of praise and encouragement, and you do develop incredible skills, but then you discount those skills because of the way that you grew the business and the way that it was more of, I just really struggle with how to talk about it without dishonoring, but
You
there's,
know what? Every business is broken. Every industry is broken. There's beautiful things about any industry. You can build a, you can build a multi-million dollar business selling Pokemon cards. You can build a $1 billion construction company. There are going to be businesses or parts of your business along the way that are going to break, and they're going to continue to break. And you need to figure out which areas are broken, which areas have the highest impact on your customers, which areas need to be fixed right now, which areas are broken that can continue to break because they're not going to be detrimental to the company itself at this time. It will be detrimental if they don't get dealt with down the road, but is it an absolute priority right now? But there's nothing, any industry that you work in can be exceptional. Any industry that you work in, if you do it the right way, can serve you, can provide you a tremendous amount of opportunity. But I think people need to realize that every business to some degree is broken. And if you can wrap your head around that and be comfortable knowing that it's not just you, it's not just your business, it's not just your industry, it's not just your market is broken. I talk to people all the time, and they're saying, oh, we're not getting any leads, the market sucks, the market's slow, the economy shit, no people aren't spending money. Like, maybe there is to some degree a level of truth to that. But if you can step out of that and start looking at yourself, at your company, at your offer from 30,000 feet, and dig in and ask the question about, all right, well, what are we going to do? How are we going to change that? Cool. All of these things are affecting everybody else in this world. what are we going to do different than them? And that's a question that not too many people are comfortable with, because the answer quite often is a scary one. The answer quite often isn't super clear. And people, if they don't have clarity immediately, then they just discount the fact that they're on the right path, and they'll assume that they're in trouble and what they're doing is wrong, versus finding that problem to solve, finding that way out of the woods to find success without the tools that you have. Some people are going to say, I don't have the skills to find my way out of the forest here in the middle of the trees. I'm just going to call for that helicopter and get off the island. And some people are going to say, all right, I know I need shelter. What am I going to do? Okay, survival first. I need some shelter. Okay, I'm going to need food. Am I willing to go out and hunt? Am I willing to go and kill something and learn how to build a fire and cook it? Or am I, you know what, do I just good going to the grocery store, and as soon as I get out of here, that's going to be the first thing that I do, and I'm okay with that. And there's not a right or wrong answer, but how do I want to put this? People are, like you said early in the, and I think what you were alluding to is they are defined a lot by their environment that they grew up in, the people that are around them, the circumstances that have evolved their way of thinking, have evolved the skill set that they have. Maybe they've never had an opportunity to get into the room of people that they wish they could be in. Maybe they've never found a mentor that they always wanted. And if they only found that person, that was going to be the life-changing event that was going to save them from where they are right now. Some people will never find that person. Some people, they'll find that person out of sheer luck and circumstance, right place, right time. I'm not discounting that at all. And there's going to be some people that are going to pick up the phone. They're going to make that list of people that they want to connect with, and they're going to reach out every single day, 2 times a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, until that person picks up the phone and agrees to sit down with them for 15 minutes and have the conversation that they want to have. Not everybody, I think everybody can do that, but not everybody wants to do that. Not everybody is naturally wired to do that. Can they be wired to do that? Absolutely, to some degree, for sure. But I think that there's, you talk about nature versus nurture. I think that there's some involved in, in nature for sure, how you're born. But if you have, you're talking about your kids, they're different ages. They're, raised, they have, brothers, sisters, they're raised by the same mom who has the same values, who's maybe changing a bit year over year. But they have inherently, many of the same genes. But the environment that they are surrounded by is going to change them. The group of friends that they go to school with, the teachers that they have at that year, having the dynamic of being the younger sister or the older brother, like that is going to shape their perspective and continue to build confidence in them, or not, right? Maybe they're not, maybe as as an older sibling, you're going to grow up and you're going to have too much responsibility looking after your younger siblings, and you're going to be in a position where you don't want that responsibility anymore. You felt too much pressure as the older child, and you don't want to have that responsibility of looking after people. So you're going to go and find somewhere where somebody can look after you. I'm going back to parenting a little bit. I'm maybe going a little off track here, but I have that thought about my daughter. She's 4 years old. And with a new 5-month-old, my oldest daughter is such an incredible help around the house. And she knows where the towels go. She can put the towels back in the closet. She knows that if I have to get up work, because I'm sleeping in her bed a lot of nights right now, and she knows, like, she likes me there, and I'm not in any rush to jump out. I'm happy that I'm sleeping with her in her bed. It kind of keeps our youngest sleeping and my wife sleeping. But she knows that if I'm getting up and I have to leave early, then I'm going to, leave the TV on in case she gets scared in the living room, and she can go out and sit on the couch, and she's going to be there for a little while until mom comes out of the room. But I look at that and I'm thinking, man, you're growing up pretty quickly. And I'm giving you a lot of responsibility as a 4-year-old, and I'm really fucking proud of you. You're an amazing kid. But I do wonder, you know, is this too much responsibility? Is she going to be that person that grows up that says, I was looking after my younger sister when I was 4 years old. You put this responsibility on me. You put this weight on me. And I think as parents, you go through and you often have these questions as to whether or not you're making the right choices. And same thing as a business owner. You can only lead to the context in which you've been led, right? You can only paint the vision in to the size of which you have been taught or you have inherently learned through the books that you've read, the people that you've talked to, the experience that you have to cast that vision. And not everybody is on the same page. Not everybody has had the same experiences. Not everybody wants them, and not everybody will have them.
Yeah, it's
Sorry,
interesting.
I blacked out there for a second. I don't know what I just said for the last 3 minutes. So hopefully everybody was there with me.
It's interesting in the world of network marketing, these leaders, the leaders that I'm referring to, they're not considered in their minds when they're building these massive organizations, level two, like number three, number four, like they are the owner of their team, not the owner, because no one, it's not you don't own your team, your people, but you're wired and made to believe that this is your business, that you have control over, and that you have built, and that you're the entrepreneur, and that you're the business owner. And so there's this like identity of, I am a businesswoman, I am a powerful businesswoman. And then when things shift in that business model, things that are completely outside of your control, like owners of the company, product changes, the things that drastically impact the business that you have zero control over, and the success that you've created is essentially stripped away. That's where it's, oh my gosh, can I ever do something like, I've literally had women that have been in this level say, I don't know if I can ever do anything big like that again. And my belief is that, hell yes, you can. You need the mentor, like you were referring to earlier. You need to find the mentor that can show you a different blueprint. There are other blueprints. There are other opportunities. There are other ways that you can build a business that has so many different aspects of what you've built that you loved. And then and you're right. No industry is perfect. No business model is perfect. It's just my belief that there's a lot of women that have achieved massive success that are telling themselves stories about how maybe they just got lucky. And I believe in my heart of hearts that there are women out there that do have the sense of this. My identity is a very capable, strong businesswoman. I just don't know how I could ever do it again. And that's who I want to be a shining light for those women, to show them, yes, you have developed incredible leadership skills. It takes incredible leadership skills to build a massive organization of hundreds of thousands of women, or men and women, to create hundreds of thousands, if not hundreds of millions in online sales. That is not something that just anybody can do. These are not women that are just like good at being employees. These are powerful women believing stories about whether or not they're actually capable of creating something that they've always dreamed of. So I wanted to offer for your audience, I did create a master prompt with ChatGPT for offer creation to go through and not only identify maybe offers that are in the marketplace, but even go validate those offers with one ChatGPT prompt. So if your listeners, find me on Instagram at Kindra Marie Morse, Kindramariemorse. I have a really long name. And DM me offer Brandon. That way I know that you're listeners. I will send that master prompt. I believe there's a lot of people out there that see, with the leverage that's possible with content and with AI and the information business world, there's a world of opportunities out there. You can build the business of your dreams. There's so much out there. And I really firmly believe there are women that are capable, and they just don't know that there's a mentor that can be the shining light that can show them there's a different way.
What would you tell somebody if they were looking for a mentor or they were a little stuck? Right
Find
now,
one.
you find one.
A mentor will help you knock on doors you didn't even know were there. Finding a mentor changed my life drastically. And you and I met because of having the same mentor at this time. I watched him, and this is the thing. I think when we see someone out in the world doing what we want to do, you need to go ask them, can you mentor me? Would you mentor me? I see you doing something meaningful. I want to do what you're doing. I want to show up in the world in the way that you're showing up. That person almost always will, whether they offer that as an actual service or just bring you under their wings, there isn't a successful person in the world that isn't going to share, yes, I want to show you what I've learned. It's unsuccessful people that don't want to tell their secrets. Successful people want to help other people achieve their dreams too.
You never see anybody at the gym that's jacked and fit talking shit about people that are there at the gym trying. It's just all encouragement. You never see people that have created a huge amount of success in business looking down at somebody that's just starting their business and look down at them. Like I will, most people will continue to open up their doors and help people along because they know that they've been there often in the exact same positions that somebody might be going into now, and they had wished at that time that they had somebody that they could reach out to, or maybe they did have somebody and they're looking to repay that because they know how powerful that was. I think most people inherently, they do want to help and they do want to do great things and they want to help other people and see other people succeed. um, I wholeheartedly believe that. I'll share a story with you. My sister, she moved up the Sunshine Coast, and which is from for the listeners, it's a short ferry ride away from downtown Vancouver. And she had an opportunity to buy a gym over there. At this point, it was a women's gym, and it was a franchise. So she had an opportunity. The owner over there of this franchise was selling, and she had some health issues and just wanted to pack up the running shoes and sell the business. And my sister, who was working for that company at the time, she was managing another branch, saw this as an opportunity. So she went, she purchased this business, and she was the owner. She was the owner. She was handling the marketing. She was responsible for bringing in new members, was responsible for community engagement, getting people through the door. That was all her responsibility. On the back end of that, she was paying the franchise owners or the company money every month based on how much she was doing. But she was responsible for paying the lease, was responsible for staffing, was responsible for running the scheduling, everything that a business owner does. But then corporate had decided that they wanted to rebrand all of the gyms, and that was going to be on the owners of the business. They had a license with another fitness influencer, who I assume is still around. I'm not going to name names, but I decided to do a rebrand with this woman. And it was my sister's then responsibility to drop what was close to $60,000 on new signage, new marketing material, all of this stuff that she didn't want to do. And she's looking around thinking, we're getting close to tapping out this market. You're going to drive me out of business. And that's exactly what they did. And on top of that, they said, it's in your contract that you can't resell the equipment. So all of that equipment she couldn't even sell. She had to throw that in the landfill. All of that was discarded, and it drove her out of business because she wasn't able to make enough money. She was just barely making enough money, but she was living on her own terms. She loved her business. She loved her staff. She loved all of her clients, was helping so many people. But as soon as they decided to make a move and somebody else that had the control that said, we are pivoting, we have these new initiatives, and it's on you to spend a huge amount of money to make that happen, because overall as a company, this is where we're going. That was where she realized, okay, I'm not in as much control as I had. Shut down the gym. And the thought never occurred to her to open up a new gym location. And she decided, I've been, heard enough. And she did. She found another job somewhere, and she's changed careers, and she's since launched a new business. But for a lot of years, that was a big risk that she took, packing up her life, changing locations to go and run this business. And then once it shut down, there wasn't really a plan B.
That's heartbreaking. And I guarantee she had the skills to go and build her dream gym right then and there. But I bet her belief was knocked into the ground, thinking maybe I don't have what it takes. And it's not that she didn't have what it takes. She was in a business model that did not give her control to make the decisions that she needed to make that were best for her. But a lot of people are in situations where, because of things outside of their control, it affects what they believe about themselves and what they're capable of.
100%. And like to your point, that took a huge toll on her, because
Mm-hmm.
it took a huge toll on her beliefs, on her momentum, on the fire
Mm-hmm.
that she had burning inside of her to go and build a business as an entrepreneur. It
Mm-hmm.
took a all the wind out of her sails to a point where she's like, okay, this was really tough. I had to shut things down. I'm not very proud of it, and I just need some thinking time to go and reestablish. And but she never built that gym back up again. But that was, when she realized. And so everything that you're talking about here, it certainly hits close to home, because she was one of those women that you were talking about that could have certainly used a mentor to show her a path forward, and could still use a mentor. And but you see and you hear those stories all the time. And to be in that place, and to not have a way out, to be able to find somebody like you that they can reach out to, talk to, bring on as a beacon of light, as a beacon of hope into their life, into their business, and build that confidence back up again, is incredible. And I love what you're doing. I think it's super powerful. And yeah, can't wait to see how things come along for you in the future. Um, to hold that candle up and keep other people's candles lit and burning fiercely. It's awesome. It really is.
I'll leave everyone with this. In life, it's all 50% what happened and 50% the meaning that we assign to what happened. And we always have control over the 50% meaning. What do we make this scenario mean? What do we make this mean about us? What do we make this mean about the people around us? What do we make this mean about what's possible? We have the experience, and then we get to decide, what are we going to make this experience mean? And that's empowering.
Kindra, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today, sharing your story, and sharing your lessons of empowerment. It's been incredible having you here. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on your show.
And to all of our listeners out there that are still with us, as always, appreciate you, appreciate your time, appreciate you tuning in. Kindra will make sure that we connect everybody with you in the show notes as well. Until next time, stay blessed, rock and roll. Peace.